Hey all, Tabs here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and welcome back to Zimba Zoo episode 11. So we're continuing in the Desert Rocks area, and again it's another little short episode, kind of trying to make them a bit more frequent for you guys, so there's not big gaps. I know it's not that frequent, but this is kind of the best I can do at the moment. So this is continuing in the Desert Rocks area. I think this is the third one of these. Actually, this is the fourth episode in this area. So we started off with the crested porcupine, then we've done 2 episodes on the sandcats and the backstage to the sandcats. And we are now moving into an armadillo. So technically not an African animal because we're using the 9-banded armadillo, but I'm just going to kind of pretend that this works and it's actually the right type of armadillo. So you'll see me add in. There's a bunch of little details and backstage sections to this. And actually this area is getting really kind of quite well developed now. I'm probably pretty close to the next habitat being ready for this as well. So what you're seeing me doing is I'm again using the same backstage building that I've used for the porcupines and the sandcats. So it's a slightly different section of the viewing area for the guests here, but thought it would be fun to do this kind of little trench system, this little tunnel, because there's quite a long distance now between the building and the habitat itself, or the guest facing part of the habitat. So I thought it might be quite fun just to do this little idea that there's a little tunnel, and you'll see this come together. So this is to allow the keepers and stuff to move around through this backstage area, but also allow the armadillos to happily get backwards and forwards between the guest-facing bit of the habitat and their shelter and stuff. So this is being made possible using the free build mod. So you'll see me a couple of times here pushing the path and things. It's not a massive change. It's definitely something you could do yourselves fairly easily without using the mod if you're averse to using the mods. So what I've done is I've cut a little hole there. You see I've dug a little trench, and now I'm filling that in. And I've started off, when I started the first kind of seconds of the speed build, will be just putting down the habitat barriers so that it all includes this whole section. And now I'm sort of adding these concrete bits. You see I've put my little tunnel there, and then you'll see me kind of add kind of some access and things to this. I just thought it would be kind of fun idea. Usually this is how ideas work in my brain, and how I come up with ideas. It's just what about if I tried doing this, and then it kind of comes together. So you can see I've put concrete down. I had a few times where actually you just see me doing it there. I realised that annoyingly the tunnel is not lined up with the door that is going to into the inside bit of the shelter. So went back and fiddled with that. I'm reusing my light mesh set, which is what I created for the sandcat habitat, and it's been on the workshop, and actually quite a lot of people like that. So thank you very much. If you haven't seen that, then it will be linked as part of the description. There's the collection for Zimba Zoo. So it's actually, once you've got those sorts of things, having a little kit like that makes this stuff really easy. So it allows you to kind of keep things consistent, but it also allows you to kind of frees up your time to do more creative ideas. So I thought, well, what happens if an animal stops in the tunnel? The keeper might want a way to be able to kind of open it up and chivvy them along or something. So that was all this was. Adding a little access point so that someone could put an arm in. In theory, these could all be unscrewed and lifted back out of the tunnel anyway to allow keepers to get in there. It kind of makes sense. And then usually this is the way my brain works, is that as I start to do these things, I then start to imagine, okay, well, how's it going to get? They've got to get up and inside, so I had to have it kind of sloping down. Have this little section raised up so that the keepers can get round here, and they can get access to the little implied water section that I had from the Sandcat episode. if you remember, there's like a fish tank just here, just close to where we are here. So I had to have it implied that keepers could still walk across this. So rather than them kind of stepping over the mesh, I thought, well, maybe I'll make a section look like it's solid. So one of the best pieces to use, I actually got a few comments on the last episode. Someone suggested, like really, really detailed narration of how, like no speed build and just talking about really specific like bits of the build and things. Quite difficult to do that because I don't think most people want that level of detail. But here is a little tip. So here is one of the best bits of best items to use in the game for width is those Australian signs that you've just seen me use. So if ever you want something that's like thin, those are the things that I usually use. And I added, you might have noticed me do it there, but I added a couple of little hinge pieces just to sell the idea that it was like bolted down. So you can use the little sticky up kind of bolt sections from the hinges to make it look like it's screwed down. So this was another little thing. So I was going to say, this is usually the way that my creative process works, is that like things kind of cascade off of each other. I remember Geekism talking about this a while ago, was that like it's just little happy kind of accidents that happen. So I sort of, we just saw me putting a little vent in there, a little drain. So obviously I thought, well, what happens when it rains is that little tunnel is going to fill up with water, so it needs to be a drain in there. So it's usually just like that little like imagination of like reality and how it would work and how it would kind of play alongside the idea that I've come up with. And there's not usually much of a plan, really, to be honest. Putting these little white lines in, so this is something you quite often see. So the animal in the left there, actually I've replaced all this cage set to match. So that's the sand cat that on the left hand side of the screen, top left of the corner of the screen there, that's the sand cat habitat. So I'm using something I quite often do is like demarc areas where keepers should be aware of the fact that there's like like not leaning up against the fence, kind of like a predatory animal. Sandcat's obviously not dangerous, but particularly dangerous. But I've used that kind of approach before. Is I've put little kind of white lines just to be a bit of a guide to tell the keepers to watch their fingers around that habitat. So we're now on the inside of the building. As you can see, I've put a skylight in for this just to give them a bit of natural light coming into the building. Probably not massively realistic, but hey ho, might be a bit warm in there for them. So there's a bunch of aircon stuff that goes into this building as well. And now I'm working on a little door for them, so a little shutter system that will come down and close them in. And then we're actually into the habitat itself. So I actually left this pretty unedited, actually, because I thought this whole little section of video is quite good just to show how often kind of minimal and simple you can make the habitat. You'll have to tell me what you think about this in the end. So it's got a little shade, it's got a little tree, using some of that Caesar's mud walls texture I've used a bunch of times before. You've got this big glass viewing section, using some of my rubble pieces, some of the enrichment pieces. That kind of suspended canvas thing works really well in here. In fact, I should add that to the workshop. And then it's following the same sort of theme. There's like really small viewing area for the guests, and everything that's kind of backstage. So all the stuff that we've just done is all outside of the view of the guests. So the guests can't see around that corner, so they can't see down the hill, so they can't see all this section with the tunnel and all that sort of thing. That's the idea. And then I'm just trying to like give it some roughness, really. Most of the time when you're working with the textures of the ground, things like the decals really make a difference, just to add a bit of like roughness into the floor, look like it's actually had animals kind of creeping around on it. This is one of those things that you can spend ages on this if you want to, adding the texture in, adding that kind of scratches and like slight discolorations of the dirt and things. Tends to be one of those things that works really well if you've got flat terrain. I find that I don't very often have flat terrain, so it doesn't work that well for me. So I think that's probably nearly it for this one, guys. You have to let me know what you think. We are going to have a tour at some point of this whole section. There's going to be still a few more episodes of this before we're done. I've got a couple more animals to add, but do let me know what you think, and we will be touring this section, in a few episodes, because there's loads of details that you're not seeing here. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Toes. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Take it easy.